under siege, where the baddest bosses rule. Who will save us? Mega Man! Join him on his ultimate quest in 3D. Who are his friends? Who are his enemies? Danger lurks around every corner. Mega Man uses awesome firepower to battle diabolical forces. Amazing non-stop blasting action. Who can save the cities from destruction? Don't call a plumber. It's all in a day's work for Mega Man. Let's do it!
Okay. Why do I suddenly want to watch Pokemon? Okay, so one of the big things that happened during the 32-bit era was the 3D revolution. It essentially became expected that games at the time had to make the jump from 2D to 3D, otherwise they probably wouldn't do all that well. 2D games that were released around this time tended to be rated much harsher than 3D games were, which is funny because a lot of the 2D games that came out around this time period tended to hold up better than their 3D counterparts. But that was just a style at the time. If you wanted your franchise to continue into the next console generation, you had to go 3D, and Mega Man was no different. Kenji Inafune and his team, of course, went to work on it, and though they had some good ideas for it, whether or not they were successful in what they set out to do is debatable. Mega Man Legends was always one of those games that I heard talk about in regards to video games that sort of failed to make the jump to 3D. It was always included on worst 2D to 3D adaptations, and, well, that's always been my perception of the game. However, in recent years, it seems like people have started to sing a different tune. Now, there seems to be a very vocal fan base out there that really loves this game, and actually view it as something as a hidden gem on the PlayStation. Having played the game for myself now, while I can't really say I agree with that statement, I do have to admit the game is a lot better than I thought it would be. So, Mega Man Legends takes place thousands of years in the future, and after some kind of flood basically decimated the entire world, humanity clings to what little land is left in the world, while this group of people called Diggers search the oceans for any resources that could help humanity survive just a little bit longer. In the game, you take the role of a version of Mega Man known as Bullnut, who, along with his best friend Roll and another friend of theirs, act as diggers searching for big cache resources known as the Mother Lode. While searching, the trio ends up crash landing on an island and discover that the island is full of all kinds of resources, many of which may be related to a lot of stuff going on in the world, such as the source of the flood and Bullnut's origins. And it also happens to be home to a family of criminals known as the Trombone Gang. So, Mega Man, since they're not going anywhere, Mega Man and his team decide to settle and fully explore the island to see what they can find. The plot of Mega Man Mega Man Legends isn't too bad. It's definitely got some really charming characters to it. Mega Man and Bullnut are a likable bunch. I love the Bond family. They are just such a fun group of villains, similar in the sense to Team Rocket from Pokemon. And that, yeah, they're bad guys, but they aren't exactly evil either. Like, they do team up with Mega Man and Roll at some point. And yeah, there is some really funny dialogue in here. Some decent voice acting for the time, too. And that's something else I want to praise about this game. The presentation in this game is fantastic. The game uses this great cel-shaded looking style with a very distinct art style that really looks like it was designed with the hardware in mind. As a result, the characters are super expressive despite how blocky they are. And it's still appealing to look at today, the draw distance being the end. Music is also really good too. Not as strong as the Mega Man X series or the classic series, but still pretty good overall. But I think what most people would be interested in regards to Mega Man Legends is how the gameplay fares, and that's where it sort of starts to stutter a little bit. When I think of Mega Man, I typically think of a lot of platforming, ever-expanding arsenal of weapons and stuff like that. And while Mega Man Legends has the former, as the latter, it doesn't have the former. Though there is still some platforming in the game definitely puts more focus on exploration. which was also the style of the time because, you know, a lot of games from the time weren't exactly platformers. They were more like games that were built around the thrill of exploring a 3D environment, which was a new thing for the time. And Mega Man Legends definitely leans into that, though with mixed results. I wouldn't say that the island is particularly fun to explore, and I definitely was missing the platforming and all stuff like that. It also doesn't help that the combat itself is a little clunky. Movement is really weird, strafing is oddball, and really all it boils down to is shoot at your enemy, move to the side, and just try to avoid taking damage. That being said, there is a tremendous amount of progression in this game. You are just constantly getting more powerful with new weapons, new weapon upgrades, movement features, and stuff like that. It's a very robust game in that regard. But I don't know. I just kind of get the sense that this wasn't necessarily intended to be a Mega Man game, but was more or less intended to be another game. But they decided to just throw Mega Man's name on it for marquee value. And, no, that might have been to the game's detriment because, as I said, it seemed like it took a while for this game really to find the audience that they were going for. All that being said, Mega Man Legends must have been popular in its time because it would get a handful of follow-ups. There would be a spin-off in the form of The Misadventures of Trombone, where players take the role of Trombone, who I think a lot of people think was made up for Marvel vs. Capcom. But she actually did get her own game, and it actually is kind of a fun one. It's not bad at all. It was also followed up directly with Mega Man Legends, which continued the story, which also sort of brings us to my other problem with Mega Man Legends, in that the story it tells, it's unfortunately incomplete. The first game sort of feels like part one of the bigger story, and the second game feels like part two of the bigger story, with more parts that are supposed to come after it. And unfortunately, as you all know, Mega Man Legends didn't go past number 2. There were plans for another Mega Man Legends game on Nintendo DS, but it ended up being canceled due to Kenji Inafune's push to focus on Western-developed games as opposed to, traditional Japanese-style games, which ultimately blew up in Capcom's face, so thanks, Inafune. And as I said, it seems like opinions were mixed on Mega Man Legends for several years. When people thought about Mega Man on the PlayStation, I think most people thought of the Mega Man X series, which had several entries on the original PlayStation. And these were actually pretty cool because they actually used the console to create some dazzling 2D graphics. And though they were rated pretty harshly for their time, they are still pretty impressive to look at, and I would argue that these games have held up better than Mega Man Legends. There was also a Mega Man 8, as in just a regular Mega Man 8 on PlayStation, which was created to celebrate Mega Man's, I think, 10th anniversary? Yeah, and these games did just fine. They probably were rated harshly when they came out, but once again, they've held up a lot better than Mega Man Legends has, in my opinion. And I think it's telling that these games outsold Mega Man Legends by a good margin, because when the PlayStation 2 came along, they just made sequels to Mega Man X for most of the game. They would eventually attempt another 3D adaptation with Mega Man X7, I think it was. But that was another disaster, and to this day, there still hasn't been a definitive 3D Mega Man game. And you know what? That might be for the best, but who knows? Maybe someone will come up with a creative idea to make it work in the future. But that's going to do it for this one, guys. Be sure to join me tomorrow as we take a look at the next game on the PlayStation Retrospective.